On today's episode of Notable New England, it's all about helping out those in need. My guest, Janet Feld, a New England musician who has close ties in Kerr County, Texas, has planned a benefit concert for flood relief efforts due to the devastating floods in central Texas on July 4th. The concert will take place at Club Passim in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and will feature other New England musicians who are coming together to help raise funds. We talk about the importance of showing up, that community has no borders, and she's giving us the inside scoop on her new album that's coming out in September. Stay tuned. Hello, lovely listeners, and thank you for tuning in to Notable New England. Whether you're a regular listener or new to the podcast, I welcome you and thank you for listening. I'm your host, Gretchen B., a lifelong proud New Englander. I hope since our last episode, you've gotten to try some of the New England ice cream spots that I mentioned. I know school is starting for a lot of New England kids in a couple of weeks, and I hope everyone is soaking in the summer and having a good time. Fall is going to be here before you know it. On today's episode, I've brought back our first guest of 2025, Ms. Janet Feld, who is a New England singer, songwriter, and musician, and she's going to talk about the importance of showing up to help others in need. Janet has been performing at the Kerrville Folk Festival in Texas and teaching workshops there for decades. So when the recent floods happened, she wanted to do something for her friends in Texas, so she decided to approach Club Passim in Harvard Square in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and organize a benefit concert featuring other New England musicians, and they are raising money for flood relief efforts. We're going to talk about that and the importance of community showing up for each other, as well as her upcoming new album, which is releasing in September. But before we hear from Janet, let's dig into some Wicked Light Bites, lighthearted and community-oriented stories and happenings from each New England state. Kids of the 1980s and New Edition fans, get ready for a great celebration. August 30th is going to be New Edition Day in Boston to celebrate the group's 42nd anniversary. Mayor Michelle Wu announced a series of events to honor the group and celebrate their contributions to music and their community. In case you aren't familiar, New Edition is a multi-platinum R&B group that was founded in Roxbury with members Ronnie DeVoe, Bobby Brown, Ricky Bell, Michael Bivins, Ralph Tresvant, and Johnny Gill. And many 80s music fans will remember, of course, Belle Biv DeVoe, which came out of a subset of New Edition. In 2017, New Edition got their star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The New Edition story, which aired on BET around the same time, set a record network viewership of more than 29 million viewers. In 2022, the group was inducted into the Black Music Hall of Fame, and the following year they were inducted into the National Rhythm and Blues Hall of Fame. New Edition Day events include a street naming ceremony in their hometown of Roxbury and a community block party. New Edition member Bobby Brown says, quote, "Boston is where it all began for us. This honor means the world to me." Ricky Bell added, quote, "I am truly grateful for the privilege of being made a permanent fixture in our city that has played such a significant role in shaping our lives and career." Mayor Wu had this to say in her announcement about New Edition Day, quote, "It is an honor to welcome home Roxbury natives New Edition to celebrate their global impact from our communities here in Boston to the music industry worldwide. Thank you to all of our city teams for their work in putting on this vibrant series of events that will bring community members together in recognition of our local homegrown group. This is a unique opportunity to bring Boston's neighborhoods together in a celebration of culture, pride, and community, and I encourage every community member to join us to celebrate New Edition's tremendous impact. Thank you to the Office of Mayor Michelle Wu for this information via their press release. Connecticut is celebrating Black Business Month, which is August, by the way, and the Shop Black Connecticut website is a big part of the celebration because it helps people find Black-owned businesses, as well as connecting Black-owned businesses in the state to find each other, which hopefully leads to collaboration. The website was founded in 2020 by Sarah Heath. It started with 150 businesses, but now has since grown to include 2,000 Black-owned businesses. Founder Sarah Heath has this to say, quote, "We've heard from business owners that there has been an increase in sales, foot traffic, website traffic, and also for businesses to connect with one another." Per the Shop Black Connecticut website, their mission is to challenge structural racism and transform the legacy of economic and social inequity in the United States by providing a platform to drive business to and awareness of local Black-owned businesses. They also state that listings on the Shop Black Connecticut website are free, and additional support is provided through pro bono digital marketing, writing, and photography services. Businesses never have to pay for any services to receive support from shopblackconnecticut.com. I'm going to put their website in the show notes so you can have a look at all of the wonderful businesses listed there and get out to support them. This information comes from Jennifer Cuevas at NBC Connecticut, as well as the Shop Black Connecticut website. Despite dwindling international visitors to Maine and staffing challenges, Acadia National Park in Maine is reporting a near-record amount of visitors in the month of July for this year, more than any other month in 35 years. According to data from the National Park Service, there were 797,030 recreational visitors to Acadia this July. The majority of visitors went to Mount Desert Island, which includes Park Loop Road, Cadillac Mountain, and Jordan Pond House. Another popular destination at the park is Schoodic Peninsula. This July topped the 795,437 visitors in August of 2021 and the 795,332 visitors to Acadia in August of 2024. Acadia has roughly 90 permanent staff members and another 150 employees during the summer months. July and August tend to be the busiest months for the park as far as visitors. This information comes from Adam Bartow at WMTW Channel 8. New Hampshire and Vermont are gearing up for their 35th annual North Country Moose Festival, August 22nd and August 23rd. Events include a moose calling contest, a parade, live music, artisan vendors, a dog show, a classic car show, and a maple syrup tasting contest. You can also head on down the road to Dixville Notch, New Hampshire, and try to spot a moose for yourself. The festival takes place in Colebrook, New Hampshire on Friday, August 22nd, and in Canaan, Vermont on Saturday, August 23rd. I'll put a link in the show notes if you want to check out the particulars of the festival and locations of the events taking place. This information comes from the staff at New Hampshire Magazine. WPRI 12 in Rhode Island, along with Cardi's Furniture and Mattresses, Ocean State Job Lot, Navigant Credit Union, Back to School Rhode Island, and School on Wheels is hosting a school supply drive for families in need. Now through September the 6th, you can submit a donation online or you can purchase and drop off school supplies at any Cardi's Furniture and Mattresses location. Supplies needed range from backpacks to scientific calculators, pencils, markers, notebooks, and more. For a complete list of supplies needed, or if you prefer to make a financial donation, I'm going to provide the link in the show notes where you can do that. This information comes from Sean Town at WPRI 12. Coming up after this quick break, I welcome Janet Feld, New England's singer, songwriter, and musician, to the podcast to talk about the importance of stepping up for people in need, how she is helping her friends in Texas after the devastating floods on July 4th with a benefit concert with fellow New England musicians, and she'll discuss her forthcoming album that releases in September. You're listening to Notable New England. Hi, everyone. It's me, Gretchen B., the host of Notable New England. I just want to take a moment to thank you for listening to the podcast. Notable New England is a one-person labor of love. I don't have a team of producers. I don't have a team of writers. I don't have a sound designing crew. It's just me bringing you stories and voices that help us all connect more deeply to this beautiful, interesting, and historic region that we call home. If you've been enjoying the show and want to support what I'm doing, there are a few ways that you can help. First, you can become a sustaining member at patreon.com/Notable New England. Again, patreon.com/Notable New England. Even $2 a month goes a long way to help cover the time and tools it takes to keep the podcast going. Or you can make a one-time donation at buymeacoffee.com/Notable New England. Again, buymeacoffee.com/Notable New England. Perfect if you just want to show your appreciation and help me keep the lights on. But I know not everyone can give financially, and that is totally okay. If you want to support the show in a big way that costs absolutely nothing, please leave a 5-star review on your podcast app. It really helps others to find the show. You can also tell a friend, neighbor, or family member who loves New England and New England stories, or they want to reconnect with their community. The mission of Notable New England is simple: to inspire you to explore where you live, meet your neighbors, shop local, learn your community's history, and become part of shaping a better future for New England. This is truly a grassroots effort, and every little bit of support helps grow this community. Thanks for being here. Let's keep discovering New England together. New Englanders are known for helping each other out when the going gets tough. Despite sometimes gruff exteriors, New Englanders have heart, and they go out of their way to step up to help others in need. Over the July 4th weekend, heartbreaking news came out of the Hill Country in central Texas. Devastating floods swept through the region. At least 135 lives were lost, and as of now, 2 people are still missing in Kerr County. Homes were destroyed, roads washed out, and serious questions remain about how local and state officials responded to the early flood warnings. My guest today, Janet Feld, knows the area well. She's been going to the Kerrville Folk Festival for decades and has built close connections with the people there. When she heard about what happened, she felt called to help. Back here in New England, she reached out to her friends at Club Passim in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and together with a group of local musicians, they're putting on a benefit concert on August 28th at Club Passim to raise funds to support flood relief efforts for their friends in Texas. You might remember Janet from our New Year's episode. She's a singer, songwriter, guitarist, and music teacher here in New England, and she's also releasing a new album this September called Kerrville Covers, which pays tribute to the songwriters she's come to admire through her time at the Kerrville Folk Festival. I'm thrilled to have Janet back with us today to talk about this special benefit concert, how we can all pitch in to help, and of course, to hear about her upcoming album. Welcome back to the podcast, Janet.
Well, thank you so much, Gretchen. I'm really glad to be here.
It's a pleasure having you back on the podcast. As I mentioned in my intro, you have been going to the Kerrville Folk Festival and performing as well as leading workshops there for decades, and you've made a lot of close connections to the people in the area. Could you tell the listeners a bit about what you've been hearing and the response of the local community?
Well, a lot of what I'm hearing is either via the people I know at the Kerrville Festival themselves, the leadership there, because they've been sending out regular newsletters to update everyone. And the other thing is that one of my dear friends from the festival, she's been putting up regular posts on Facebook because one of our very dear friends has a house in Hunt, Texas, which is right next to Kerrville. And the first floor of her house was totally flooded.
Wow.
The water went up almost to the ceiling on the first floor. And so obviously very distraught afterward, she called, our friends and said, I need some help. And as Val, my friend Val, who's been posting, when she posts, sometimes she'll start the post with, all it took was one call. And that's just the story of all the kinds of help that's happening there. So we have this group of friends who are dedicated to getting Anne's house taken care of and helping her with, the insurance paperwork and FEMA paperwork and all sorts of things. So within 2 weeks, our friends, a group of our friends had gotten all the mud and the muck out of the first floor of her house and also the shed she has. It's just incredible. The other thing is that the festival director, Deb Rouse, she just rallied everybody together. I mean, we have a really strong community. And so immediately she opened up the ranch, and with the help of the festival staff, they made the ranch available for people who were displaced by the floods or people who were there either volunteering or, paid help, who were doing, first responders, made it so that they could stay at the ranch, either camping and people, they've got like 70 RV hookups. So people with RVs could go and park there. And so as long as you're, if you're volunteering, if you're not being paid to do the cleanup and rest, then you can stay at the ranch for free. And then they also set up the ranch as they opened the kitchen, the staff kitchen, and they started getting food donations and they started cooking meals and then coordinated this full volunteer effort to bring food, hot meals to first responders, and to, families, who's flood survivors. So it's just this like on the ground way to just immediately help everybody. And then once, now the relief effort has now moved into a new phase because there's the first initial crisis time where you've got rescue and recovery efforts. And then now people are really hunkering down for the long haul of replacing, rebuilding, moving on, whatever. I mean, people have different situations, grieving, but the word on the street is just the feeling of heaviness and grief is just palpable.
Absolutely.
For obvious reasons, just the loss, this huge loss of life is just so enormous. And then just the land was left really raggedy. One of the things I love from my first guru, Mr. Rogers, is he has this quote about how his mother would tell him if he was watching TV and saw some sort of a disaster. And she would say to him, look for the helpers. There's always people helping.
That is so true.
it's one of the things I know for me, in terms of my own feelings about the situation and the feeling of sadness and just tremendous compassion for the people who've survived and who've lost people, is like, look for the helpers. And there's so many. Like, I mean, one of the things my friend Val's been posting about is, you know, the floodwaters didn't ask anybody who they voted for.
Right.
Community was just impacted in a very profound way, and people just stepped up. I'm so moved, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to. It's like, well, what can I do from here? I had donated some money when I saw postings on social media that I thought would be helpful to people. I was reposting them on my page, and then that's when I was inspired. I was like, let me reach out, to Matt Smith, who's the primary booking person at Passim, and see if we can't do a benefit concert. And he just made it really easy. So I mean, they have Passim has a really busy calendar, so it wasn't easy figuring out what the date was going to be, but he made it easy. I'm sure it was not easy for him, but he made it easy for me and said, well, we could do this or this, and which one do you want? And I said, well, I'll take this. And then I reached out to several of my dear friends, a few of whom have spent time at the festival. So we're going to, the way we're going to present the concert is very much in keeping with what happens on the ranch during the festival, where you have, in addition to these stage performances in the campgrounds on the ranch where the festival is held, you have what we call picking circles, song circles, where you have songwriters sitting around in a circle, and people, you go around the circle and everybody takes a turn playing one of their original songs. And, occasionally you'll have a cover round, but what happens is as you get to know each other's songs, and there's, people, collaborate. There's a lot of collaboration, and what a great way to really embody the spirit of the Kerrville Campfires. There's going to be 6 of us performing, and it'll be two sets with 3 artists each set, and each set will be 3 rounds. Everybody, one at a time, playing a song, with a break in between. Because that's the kind of thing, for those of us who love to play like that, being up on stage and doing it in front of an audience is like, it's like icing on the cake. Because, we could do that kind of picking with each other for hours, whether there's an audience there or not. And so it's just extra special to have the audience there and have it be a way to raise some real money to donate to, I'll donate the money directly to the Kerrville Folk Festival, because they're set up so that they can get the money to wherever it's needed most, because they're on the ground and really in touch with all the changes that happen from week to week, and so they know where the money's going to be best spent. It's nice to have that kind of direct, like, what every dollar is going to be spent well, and that's nice to know.
That's really wonderful to hear. And you have some great acts who are going to be playing at this concert with you. Can you tell us about who will be performing with you?
I would love to. Well, the first person I reached out was my bestie, Esther Friedman, and she's also in my band, The Secret Sauce. She's just one of my most favorite songwriters and has been for decades. So she's one person. Yeah, it's funny because, when you're in a band, you can only overwhelm your band with so many new songs, right? So we're both excited to be showing off some new songs where we don't have to stress out the band like, no, you're bringing too many songs. You have to be mindful of that when you're in a band. So we're both going to be doing a bunch of new songs. And although Jackie Damsky is going to help us out on some fiddle with some of the songs, which is really nice. A duo called the Lied Twos. It's Doug Kwartler and Susan Levine. And they're both wonderful songwriters and wonderful musicians. And Doug also owns a recording studio, and he has recorded and produced albums for both Esther and I. And he actually mixed and mastered the Kerrville Covers album that I'm getting ready to release. In addition to playing some tracks on it as well, because he's just a phenomenal musician. Chris Levancher, just a stunning guitar player, songwriter. Love his singing voice. He's just amazing. Mark Stepakoff, who is some of his songs are absolutely hilarious, and some of them really go more for the poignant side. But they're all just brilliant. I just love his songs, and Aaron Ash Sullivan. Actually, back in May, Esther and I did a gig with her in the round up in with the One Broadway Collaborative, and that's the second time I've done a gig with her. I mean, I just love her songs. Like some of her songs are just like, okay, now I have to call my therapist and book an extra session, because she just goes funny. Right for the heart. So yeah, so Aaron and Chris and Mark will be in the first round, and Esther and I and the Lied Tos will be in the second round. I'm going to have everybody come up on stage with all six of us on stage at the end. There's a song that is featured on the Kerrville Covers album and written by the late great Chuck Pyle, who was a longtime beloved member of the Kerrville Folk Festival community. It's a song called Step by Step. The first part of the chorus is step by step, side by side, hand in hand, this old world's a better ride. And I thought, because ending the night with a song written by a Kerrville favorite, but about getting through life together, I thought that's a perfect way to end the night. So I'm really looking forward to doing it with everybody. And Esther's got a nice harmony part and mandolin part, and we'll see what everybody else comes up with too.
This concert is going to be amazing. So please make sure that you can get there if you are local. It is at Club Passim, which is located at 47 Palmer Street in the heart of Harvard Square, Cambridge, Massachusetts. The date is August 28th at 8 p.m. And you can get tickets at passim.org. I'm going to put the link in the show notes so that you can just click on it, go there, and get tickets. And the great news is that if you live far away or you can't attend in person, there is a live stream of the concert that will be taking place. You just go to passim.org and you can watch the concert online for a small fee. And again, the money generated from this benefit concert is going to go toward the flood relief for the people of Central Texas. So this is going to be a wonderful event. So I hope that you'll be able to attend in person or even virtually. Janet, you are currently working on releasing an album in September that's called Kerrville Covers. And it's a dedication to the songwriters you love that you discovered at the Kerrville Folk Festival. I would love for you to tell the listeners a bit about this and what they can expect from the album.
Oh, I'd love to. This is a complete and total labor of love. A couple of years ago, like you mentioned before, I've been going to the festival for decades, and I was inspired to make the album because, what had happened was I had learned how to play this song by my friend Crow Johnson. And after I learned this one song, and I tabbed it out and stuff because I thought like, oh, maybe one of my students would like to learn it. Then it just occurred to me like, what, that would be really fun. There's so many great songs. I've heard so many amazing songs over the years. Wouldn't it be cool to just pick out a selection of those songs and record an album as like a love letter to my friends, because it's not just that I admire their songwriting and I think they're amazing artists. It's all of the people on the album that I'm featuring on the album are all people who have been dear friends. And these are people that mean so much to me personally. And there's so many moments when you go to not just at the festival, but being at the festival is one of those places where like you sit down in a picking circle, and like in the course of however long you stay there, there's going to be those moments when you're like listening to someone's song and you're like, OMG, I get to be here for this, where it just changes you because it's so good. It's like, I mean, there's few things in life, in my opinion, that are better than just hearing a great song. And it, great art shifts your energy in the best way. And so I took some time to choose the songs that I wanted to record. And then it took me a year to learn how to play all of them. And I had already learned Crow's song, but, and some of the songs, a bunch of the songs I recorded are really hard to play. So, like, some of them took me a couple of months to really get down, but also it's like, it's not just learning how to play it, but getting it to the point, having enough repetition in the practicing so that they're like part of your bones, And so it took me about a year to get that ready. And then I started recording here at my home studio. And I was just talking about this with Crow yesterday, that one of the gifts of being able to record at home is that it's like, I could work on a song and then go back again. And it didn't involve like making an appointment someplace. And it's like, it's like a build, take something away, build, in some cases, I recorded a track of my singing, and like, technically it was fine, but it didn't have the feel I wanted. So I did another session, and it was so much fun and really great to build the album that way. And it was just pure joy making the album, really just pure joy. And I'm very excited about sharing it with the rest of the world and turning people on to, there's some of the songs that I recorded that have gone on to be big hits on the radio. And then a bunch of other songs that are never going to be big hits because they're just not that kind of a song, but they're great songs. And I'm so excited to share these songs with the rest of the world. People, since you didn't get a chance to sit at that campfire, I'm going to bring the campfire to you.
Nice. You've released 2 singles from the album so far, Standing in My Own Way, which was written by Dana Cooper, and One Wave, written by Crow Johnson Evans. People can stream those 2 songs wherever they like to listen to music, be it Spotify, Apple Music, or other sites. Can you tell me about those 2 songs and why you chose to release them early?
Well, Dana Cooper's song. First of all, Dana Cooper is one of those people. Like, the first time I met him, he had showed up in this campfire. This circle that I was camping near. I had already gone to bed because it was like 2 or 3 in the morning, and I was tired. And I was in my tent, already in my sleeping bag. And he came into the circle and started playing. And I'm like, oh my God, who is that? I need to know who that is. And I got dressed and I went back out, and I was up for another couple of hours because I just had to hear Dana. And this song is one, he has so many great songs, but I also connected with it. It's a song the song is called Standing in My Own Way. And, when he introduces the song, he always says, like, do you ever just get sick of your own shit, but I really, and I relate to that, but in the course of the song, there's this transformation where he's examining his own shit, and then he finds a way to the other side. And it's just, and I'm just really inspired. It still inspires me, because that's the kind of journey that I like to be on, of like, okay, if I'm sick of it, it can't be fun for anybody else. Figure out how to deal with that, And with Crow's song, it really tapped into spiritual truths that I really connect with. That because in the song she describes, like, just, one wave in the ocean, one heart in a crowd, one voice in a whisper, each one longing so loud. And so she has these different things, these images, and each element feeling isolated. Wave says, where's the water? Heart cries, where is love? Voice says, I can't find my part. in the harmonies above. And then she brings it together in the chorus. Every little thing is connected. You know, sometimes it's hard to realize. And I think actually, I mean, this really connects with the benefit as well, because it's really easy to feel like, what difference can I make? I'm the only one. And to feel isolated, it's very easy to feel isolated, to feel like there's no way, I'm just one person. I can't make an impact. And I feel like this song really embodies, like, well, she brings it to completion at the end of the song about wave, you are the water, and love, you are all heart, and voice, you are the melody. So let the music start. I mean, like, so, and I mean, it's a perfect song, right? Like, it's a perfect song. Like, with a few words, she just brings that together. And in terms of like helping people out, it's really easy. Like, oh, what can I do? I'm in Massachusetts, so I can't go volunteer in person. What can I do? It's like, oh, well, let me just take a look at what's possible for me. And it's like, oh, well, I could ask this person, can we do a show? If I wasn't connected to Passim, then maybe I would find another place, I mean, or rent a place, or I don't know, there's lots of ways to do it. And, I'm fortunate enough to have been a part of the Passim community for a long time. So I have that resource. It's like, well, that's what one person can do. I think it's really easy to, if we focus on, very often, if we take a look at, like, what are the things I just do every day, just as a part of my normal routine. If we give ourselves credit where credit's due, which can often be difficult for us humans, I think we'll often find, like, oh, I have an impact on my community every single day, whether I help people bag their groceries at the store. I'm a therapist, and and I work with clients, or I teach people how to play guitar. And I was just talking to a former student of mine yesterday who was saying, I mean, 20 years ago, she didn't play any guitar at all. And now, she's going through a difficult time in her life. And she said that, she's been pretty depressed because some things, there's stuff she's dealing with. And she said, you know what, every day I pull the guitar out every day. And if I even just play for a few minutes, I instantly feel better. I mean, what's cooler than that? So I could minimize what I do and say, oh, I just teach people a few chords and how to play some songs, no big deal. But it is a big deal. If somebody takes the time as part of their job to put my groceries in bags and organize it in the shopping cart so I can take it out to my car, how cool is that?
I think you're absolutely right, Janet. And I want to put a pin in that for our listeners that yes, one person really can make a difference. We each have something that we're able to do, even if it's just a smile to a stranger. Maybe they're having a bad day, and because you smiled at them, they felt good, and, their mood changed around. Or maybe you go to your local coffee shop and you go up to your barista, and instead of just, rattling off your coffee order, ask them how they're doing. Ask them, how their day is going. Just something like that is powerful. Or, if you have a neighbor and they're going through a tough time, maybe you make a meal for them and bring it over to them. There are so many ways that each of us individually can make a difference, whether we think so or not. I mean, speaking for myself, I can't tell you how many times I might be in a funk and somebody says something kind to me. Like, I don't know, I'm walking down the street and someone's like, hey, I like your shirt. Um, you know, I will say it makes me smile. And that person may not even realize that they lifted my spirits and probably got me out of my funk, even if just for like a couple of minutes. I mean, that's huge. It can be something so small, something you might not even think is significant, but it makes a huge impact.
Yeah, yeah. So I really, here's the thing, and I love that you've talked about using the word community. That is actually, part of the mission statement of Passim is about nurturing community, which has been one of the many reasons why it's been I've stuck around in that and been a part of that community for a long time. Is that's something that's so important to me. And it's not just that it's nice to have community. I believe that we all as humans, we need community. Like we need food and we need air and water and sleep. Like just like we need those things, we need community and connection.
I 100% agree.
Nothing like a global pandemic to really drive home how much we need each other. Even introverts were having a hard time. It's like, yeah, I like alone time, but not this much.
It is true. I am an introvert for one. I can pretend I'm an extrovert being a musician and doing this podcast, but if you know me in my day-to-day life, I am very much an introvert and I love my alone time. I crave my alone time. But I can tell you that during the pandemic, it did get old, not being able to see people and, to kind of have a lot of isolation. And it did remind me about the importance of community. And actually, it kind of bred this podcast, actually, because my mission of this podcast really is to build and strengthen community and remind people how important it is to have community around you.
And then for us extroverts, I saw this great meme on Facebook during lockdown. It was like, introverts, check in on your extrovert friends. We are not okay.
It must have been torture for the extroverts.
And also just really highlighting how much we can do for each other, because like we were in this global crisis and there are ways in which people were there for each other during that crisis that were just amazing, during a really terrible time, and the other thing too, in terms of community, it's like there's no borders to the community. It's like miles don't make a difference. The fact is that both the Passim community and the Kerrville Folk Festival community are communities that really don't only celebrate songwriters, but really nurture songwriters and nurture that community. And, there's all sorts of energy put into developing talent and bringing new music to the community, nurturing while also having, there's this really, if you look at who performs at these different venues, there's always a combination of, the veterans and new faces. I mean, Passim has a, special Discovery Night concerts. They call it the Discovery Series, and they're able to host artists who can't necessarily fill a lot of seats. Right? They figured out how to do that. And then at the Kerrville Folk Festival, they have a songwriting contest every year. And it's an opportunity for new artists to have their work heard. It's a special part of both communities. The Kerrville Folk Festival is one of our neighbors, not in the physical, but certainly in the greater sense. They are one of our neighbors. So if we can help them out, why not? Why not?
You are absolutely spot on, Janet. I totally agree with that. And I love that sentiment that community has no borders. There is nothing more true than that. Thank you so much for saying that.
If you go into a dark room, and you switch the light on in the room, the darkness just disappears just because light, vibrates at a higher frequency than the darkness. So there was no negotiation necessary. You didn't have to say, okay, darkness, I'm going to turn the light on now. So why don't you go away? You can go over here. It's just like, no, you just turn on the light switch. That's like almost like a little mantra for me. It's like, in any situation, what does it look like for me to turn on a light switch here? What does that look like? And a lot of times the answer to that prayer, because that's really what it is. It's a prayer for me anyway. It's often something really, really simple, something that for me doesn't take any effort or very little effort on my part, but makes a big difference for someone else. And it's really just a matter of, I can shift my focus there. I mean, I have my moments like anybody else where, we're living through a really intense time in history right now, and there's lots of terrible, terrible things happening around the world. And it's like, okay, what is possible today? You know, and what's possible today? How can I flip the light switch on, and not underestimating how much of a difference it can make? Here's the thing. The thing that I talk about this a lot is, in 2001, this knucklehead got onto a plane in Paris with a shoe bomb, and and just recently they decided we don't have to take our shoes off anymore. Okay, so that's 24 years later. So for 24 years, people had to take their shoes off because one knucklehead in 2001 went onto a plane in Paris with a shoe bomb, right? So look at the impact of that. Now, so I talk about this with my students, like, we'll be sitting, in one of the little classrooms at the Passim School of Music, playing a James Taylor song, and I'm like, well, who's to say that just us chickens sitting here in this little classroom in Harvard Square, who's to say that we're not having the same vibrational impact? It's just you're not going to hear about us on the news. But why wouldn't it have the same vibrational impact as that knucklehead walking onto the plane with a shoe bomb? Why not? It's just, you're not going to hear about it on the news because if it bleeds, it leads, so, so those are those things, it's like, I want people to not, please don't minimize those things.
That's definitely a great point. So people can pre-order your album on your website and get some special perks as a thank you. Could you tell us what the pre-sale will help with?
Yes, the pre-sale helps cover the cost of the mixing and mastering of the album, the promotion of the album, the paying musicians, and the manufacturing of it. And I think that's it. But but there's a whole lot of things that go into creating an album and then releasing an album, and so it really helps cover the cost of that. And I'm delighted to offer people some bonuses for when they buy the album in advance.
You can pre-order Janet's album Kerrville Covers at her website, which is janetfeld.com, and the album will be officially releasing on September the 14th. If you pre-order the album, you can get some cool perks as an extra thank you. I'm going to put her website in the show notes so that all you have to do is click on it. And also, just a reminder that the Kerrville Benefit Concert is going to be taking place at Club Passim, located at 47 Palmer Street in Harvard Square, Cambridge, Massachusetts, on August 28th at 8 p.m. You can get tickets at passim.org. Again, I will put that in the show notes for you, so you can just click on it. And if you can't attend in person, that is totally fine, because there is a live stream that you can log in for to show your support, and it's just for a small fee to be able to live stream it from your home. Thank you so much, Janet, for coming on the podcast again. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. I'm so glad that you filled us in about this benefit concert, which I know is going to be a huge success. I really thank you as well for discussing how important community is and how important everybody is. Everybody can do something to make a difference in other people's lives. I wish you the best with your album release as well. And again, thanks for coming on the podcast. It's always great to talk to you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks so much for having me. It's always a blast to talk to you.
Thank you again to Janet Feld for coming on the podcast to talk about the Flood Relief Benefit Concert at Club Passim in Cambridge, Massachusetts, as well as sharing information on her forthcoming album, Kerrville Covers. I'll be back with a brand new episode of Notable New England on Sunday, August 31st, and I hope you will tune in. Until then, enjoy these last remaining weeks of August and get out into your communities and explore, meet people, and have fun. I'll see you next time.